Okay, you may have watched the video on the channel where I unboxed and demoed this rather lovely candy apple Harley Benton standard Strat, so 77 euros. I mean, I think it's great value out of the box, and you've certainly got a Stratty sounding guitar, but I want to see what else I can do with it. I think it's such a good bass. The guitar is really nice, works really nicely. I want to change it up, so let's see. I'm going to try out a few things: pickups, bridge block, see what works. Certainly tuners, even though I like those tuners, I've got some better ones, so let's go ahead and invalidate the warranty. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look underneath the hood, start taking things to pieces, take these strings off, see what things are like actually underneath here compared to maybe a Squire or something similar. I don't do many Strats, so I've never tried one, so I'll be comparing it pretty much to a Squire. See what we can find. I'll do this on time lapse and I'll stop at the interesting bits. Okay, so here we are. I've got the pickguard off. Pretty standard stuff underneath here. These are what you call dime pots. You've got two capacitors here, and standard import 5-way switch, and then 3 fairly generic looking ceramic single coils. So they're going to come out, and I'm going to put some other ones I've got lying around in there, which I haven't been able to find a use for so far, but should be slightly better and a bit brighter, certainly on the neck and the bridge. So yeah, that's one job that's going to happen. I'm also going to change this pickguard for a taut pickguard I've got, and have a look under the bridge, but one thing at a time. I'll do the pickguard later. There we go. I'll pop a few screws in there to keep it safe and have a look at the bridge. So we've got standard 3 springs here. One of the skinniest blocks I've seen, or maybe I'm just getting used to thicker ones. This block is really skinny, so I would be looking to change that. Also, this trem claw is pretty much screwed to the body here, so that's rather unusual. Let's see if we can change this block. So what I've got here is a Music Lily brass block, which is actually designed for a Squire. Thought I may as well give it a go. Let's see if it fits. Okay, so we've lucked out here. This block from Music Lily, which is a really nice solid piece of brass, fits underneath. Great, good news. It's an auspicious start. Up the other end of the guitar now. I'm going to take out these tuners, and here's some tuners which I've taken out before I sold another guitar. I mean, there's nothing particularly wrong with these tuners, but the other ones are more accurate. So these are what they call Clusen style tuners, which should mean that the bore hole is the right size. I'm going to go ahead and take all of these out and then put the new ones in. So I found this brown taut effect pickguard. I will go ahead and install this. So the last thing I'm going to do on this today is to plug some holes where the pickguard screws went, so I can re-drill new holes. I just cut up some kebab sticks to do this. Put them in there, get them covered in glue, wood glue, and then tap them in with a hammer. I'm just going to make this, I mean the neck's pretty smooth, but I'm just going to smooth it down a bit. I'm taking some 600 grit sandpaper and I'm just going to smooth this neck down before I start working on the fretboard. I'm only going to go up to here, here, here and here. That was the quick bit. Now I'm going to start working on the fretboard, and I'm going to use just tiny bits of sandpaper here, making sure I don't go over the fret.
His huge and ancient shell topped with meteor craters. Through sea-sized eyes that crusted with rheum and asteroid dust, he stared steadily at the destination.
Now I noticed that the strings were just sticking a tiny bit in the nut. I don't want to make the nut any deeper, but what I do want to do is just ensure there's a bit of width on the side and it's filed out just a tiny bit more. So I'm using a little file like this to do that. I'm not pushing down, I'm working from side to side in the nut. So yeah, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to shield the pickup cavity with this copper shielding tape. It creates something inside called a Faraday cage, which protects these very vulnerable single coil pickups from interference, from lights and other electrical devices in the home or in the studio, on the stage, that create noise. So the next stage of this is to change the pickups, but what I want to be able to do is I've got two potential sets of pickups that I want to put in here. One is kind of a mishmash of Wilkinson and Fender pickups, and the other one are a set of pickups made by Warman called Texas Triple Hots. So what I'm using are these. Instead of soldering, I'm using these tiny Spade connectors. Try and get that to focus, there we go. So, and these clip on the end of the wire, and then they go together like this. So wire on that end, wire on that end. Okay, just another thing to point out. In order to get those Spade connectors onto the wire, I have to use this crimper thing. It has various different widths of Spade connector you can use, and other connectors. So and that clamps the wire onto the end of clamps the Spade connector onto the end of the wire. Also, what I'm going to do here, which you may not want to do, I have loads of sets of these kind of generic no-name pickups, and whilst I think they're great for the price, they're not as good as many of the other pickups I have lying around in my parts box. So I'm going to sacrifice these. I'm going to do this because to get rid of the wires. So I want to use as much of these wires as possible. So there we go, and this gives me wire to put the Spade connectors onto. Black ones are the earth wires. That's the neck, that's the middle, and that's the bridge. Alright, so I've chopped all these wires pretty much down to approximately the same length, and now I'm just stripping the ends of the wires, just leaving a tiny bit on the end. There doesn't really need to be too much to go into these tiny Spade connectors, and then I'm twisting the wires around. Then I'm going to solder the wires on just to make sure they stay
Jaws that bite. Jaws that bite. Jaws that bite. Claws that catch. Claws that catch. Claws that catch.
Here are these Warman pickups. I've tried them in a couple of guitars now without success. Anyway, see if they work on this one. So I've got these all on, these Spade connectors on, and I just want to show you how easy they are to connect. So this is the bridge, this is my ground wire, and what I do is slot that in there, and then we slide these pieces over here, and then one goes over the other one like that. There we go. Now it took a little while to put them on, but frankly compared to soldering to the back of pots, for me that's much preferable. I really hate soldering to the back of pots. I tend to melt them all, not a natural solderer, whereas these connections are easy to solder, there's nothing to break. So having said that, let's see if it works. So final impressions then, it's just a really good modern guitar, and what I've found out along the way has really just expanded my impression of this guitar. It's a great beginner stroke intermediate level guitar out of the box, but it's really easy to change, you know, and it's easy to change for a couple of reasons. It has a thick body, has a 45mm body thickness versus 39mm on a Squire Bullet guitar, which means you can fit standard parts in there an awful lot easier. So whilst I've got a nice brass block in there for Musically, it's an excellent brass block, I could fit a thicker one in there because I've got a full 4mm to go before I've, you know, run out of room in my bridge cavity. I could even try sticking some Fender standard bridge in there, you know. It has that chunky C neck profile and a wide fretboard radius, and what that means is you've got a better choice of pickups, and you've got a better choice of good pickups that you can put in there, because as I found out with my Warman Texas Triple Hots, I tried putting them in a couple of guitars with thin necks, and the bridge pole piece on the top E string just poked too far out, and I just wasn't getting any volume on that top E string. Put it in here, it works a charm, and it works a charm because it's a Fender-like spec, which is brilliant. Onto the tuners, the 10mm locking tuners that I had just slotted straight in there because it has Clusen vintage style tuners in there already. There was some work required to speed up the neck, but I mean that's just personal preference. I like a really smooth neck, and it took about 2 seconds. It took a little bit longer to file down the fret ends, but again I wasn't expecting them to be silky smooth on a guitar this cheap. So yeah, and a little bit of work, I mean just a few minutes really, widening the slots in the nut a little bit. There was not that I could see any shielding on the pickup cavity, unless there's some shielding paint underneath the paint that's there. I had to shield that pickup cavity, but again that doesn't take very long. But what you do have there is, I suppose it's a plus and a minus. You have a very large cavity for the pickups. It's a big square hole in the body there for the pickups, and I suppose the downside of that is it might slightly affect the sustain of the guitar because you've got a slightly less wood in there, but on the upside you've got plenty of room in there, for example for my Spade connectors that I put in there. So onto the pickups, I mean these are emulated or emulating the Texas Specials, Fender Texas Specials I think, but they're doing it with ceramic magnets, whereas the Texas Specials have Alnico 5 magnets in them. So I was kind of expecting them to be not a very good copy, but they are, and I think you can tell that the clean tone is warm rather than bright, and I think in certain respects I preferred the clean tone on the stock pickups, but the pickups aren't really designed for clean tones. They're designed to be overdriven, and I think they do that really well, and I really like the sound. It just had a lot more class to it, frankly, than the kind of ice picky overdrive we were getting with the stock ceramic. They do that, Warman do that by overwinding the pickup. There's way more winds than normal wire going around the magnets, and that's takes the brightness off those ceramic magnets, and they're really loud and really hot, and I think that they sound really good through an overdrive, and bearing in mind on all I was doing on this one was taking exactly the same parameters I used to test the stock pickups to test the Warman pickup, so it was a side-by-side comparison. But I think if you listen to the intro music, you can hear how they can sound, and when I'm mucking around with the overdrive to kind of get the tone that the pickups really like, I think they're really great pickups, and I'm really impressed with them. Now I can actually hear all of the poles. So an amazing modding platform, but it already feels and sounds like a really good guitar, a much more expensive guitar than the €77 I paid for it. So yeah, I think Harley Benton maybe rivaling, potentially beating Squire now for my favourite modding guitar. I don't buy expensive guitars, to be honest with you, but I also I wouldn't be too keen to be modding a €2,000 guitar. So yeah, but Harley Benton just seem to be turning out some really awesome gear. So I will be unboxing and reviewing their TE20 HH SBK Telecaster style guitar, the unboxing and review of the guitar, but I'll also probably do a modified version of that as well. So that's all going to be coming up, a bunch of pedal mods I've been procrastinating doing. They'll be coming up, and much more. So there we go. Sorry, it's an extremely long video, not normally this long, but there was a lot to get through, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit like. If you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe, and either way, I look forward to seeing you again on Gear Steer.